In the heart of an ancient land, nestled between sleeping mountains and a silver river, lay a forest known as the Whisperwood. It wasn't just a place of trees and shadow. It was a living symphony. The leaves sang duets with the wind. The creeks hummed melodies over smooth stones. And the creatures, great and small, added their voices to the choir. From the deep baritone of a grumpy badger to the high, trilling laughter of the sun-dappled pixies, the Whisperwood was alive with sound. And in this forest lived a girl named Lira. Her hair was the color of autumn leaves, and her eyes held the deep green of moss after a gentle rain. Lira was a child of the Whisperwood. She knew the rhythm of the seasons by the changing songs of the birds, and she could tell the weather by the way the old oaks groaned. The forest's music was the beat of her own heart. One morning, however, Lira woke to a strange stillness. The usual dawn chorus of robins was missing. The playful chattering of squirrels was gone. A profound quiet had settled over the edge of the woods, a quiet so deep it felt heavy, like a wool blanket soaked in water. Day by day, this creeping silence spread, seeping deeper into the heart of the Whisperwood. The leaves on the trees began to lose their vibrant green, turning a pale, listless grey. The once sparkling creek flowed without a murmur, its voice stolen. The animals grew fearful and muted, their bright eyes dulled with a strange sorrow. The silence wasn't just an absence of noise. It was a thief, stealing the very life and colour from the world. Lyra's heart ached with the forest's pain. She would walk for hours, trying to hum the old tunes, to coax a single chirp from a frightened finch, but her voice felt small and lost in the suffocating quiet. The elders of her small village who lived on the forest's edge huddled around their hearths, speaking in hushed tones of a forgotten blight, a sound-eater from old legends. They said the forest was dying, and there was nothing to be done. But Lira refused to believe it. The Whisperwood was her home, its voice her oldest friend. She couldn't let it fade into nothing. One evening, as a lavender twilight fell, casting long, silent shadows, she saw it. Standing at the edge of the encroaching greyness was a magnificent white stag. It was not a creature of flesh and bone, but seemed woven from moonlight and mist. Its antlers branched like ghostly silver trees, and its eyes held the wisdom of 1,000 winters. It made no sound, yet its gaze was a clear and urgent call. Without a moment of hesitation, Lira followed. The white stag led her into the heart of the silence, through groves of petrified-looking trees and across riverbeds that were now just scars of dry, quiet stone. The air grew colder, and the silence pressed in on her, trying to steal the breath from her lungs and the memories of songs from her mind. To fight it, Lira began to whisper. She whispered stories of the sun, descriptions of the babbling brook, and the melodies of the nightingales she so missed. Finally, the stag stopped in a hidden, cavernous glade she had never seen before. The air here was vibrating with a low, oppressive hum, the only sound in the muted world. And in the center of the glade, scattered like fallen stars, were the source of the blight. They were stones, smooth and dark as a starless night sky, and they pulsed with a faint light-absorbing energy. These were the hush stones. They weren't just silent. They consumed sound, feeding on it, growing stronger with every note they devoured. Lira saw crude axes and hammers left behind by others who had tried to fight the silence. They had tried to shatter the stones, to destroy them with force, but the ground was littered with the splintered remains of their tools. The stones were unbreakable. As Lira stood before them, a wave of despair washed over her. How could she, a girl with nothing but her voice, succeed where strong warriors had failed? But then she looked at the stag, and in its silent gaze, she found not an instruction to fight, but to understand. She looked closer at the hush stones. They weren't malicious. They were lonely. They existed in a void, a world without melody or rhythm. They took sound not from hatred, but from a desperate, empty hunger for something they could never create themselves. They were born of silence and knew nothing else. And so, Lira decided not to destroy them. She would teach them. She took a deep breath, and at first, only a small trembling note escaped her lips. The stones seemed to absorb it instantly. The silence felt deeper, but she didn't stop. She closed her eyes and thought of everything she loved about her home. She sang of the pitter-patter of rain on broad oak leaves, a sound that always made her feel safe and cozy. As she sang, she imagined the soft drumming against the stone's hard surfaces. Then, she sang of the crackling fire in her hearth on a cold winter's night, its warm, popping, and hissing dance. She poured the feeling of warmth, of community, of stories shared in the firelight, into her melody. A tiny flicker of warmth seemed to stir in the cold glade. She sang of the mighty wind, howling through the mountain passes, a wild and free song of power and change. She sang of the gentle breeze that rustled the chimes hanging on her porch, a playful, tinkling tune. Her voice grew stronger, more confident. She wasn't just making noise. She was sharing the soul of sound. Lira sang the forest back to itself. She gave the stones the rumbling growl of a mother bear, the frantic buzzing of a honeybee, the joyful splash of a salmon leaping upstream. She gave them the rhythm of her own heartbeat, the laughter she shared with her friends, the lullabies her mother sang to her. She poured all the beauty and emotion of the living, breathing, noisy world into her song. For a moment, nothing happened. The glade remained quiet, her last note hanging in the air. Then, a low vibration started, not the oppressive hum from before, but something new. A deep, resonant tone rose from the largest hush stone. It was a simple note, clumsy and hesitant, but it was a sound. It was an answer. One by one, the other stones joined in, not consuming her song, but harmonizing with it. They learned to resonate, to echo the beauty she had shown them. The oppressive silence shattered like glass, and a wave of pure, harmonious sound washed out from the glade. As the music swept through the Whisperwood, color flooded back into the leaves. The gray faded, replaced by a green so vibrant it seemed to glow from within. The creek began to babble again, its voice clear and sweet. A chorus of birdsong erupted from the canopy, more joyful than ever before. The forest was awake. It was singing. When Lira returned to her village, she was no longer just a girl of the forest. She was Lira, the keeper of the song, the guardian of the Whisperwood. The hushed stones, no longer silent, became the heart of the forest's orchestra, their deep, resonant tones providing a beautiful bass line for the symphony of life. Lira had learned that some voids cannot be filled with force, but only with beauty, and that even the deepest silence can be taught how to sing. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this tale, please consider subscribing for more stories from the forgotten corners of imagination.